And it looks like we're live, so that just leaves me to say hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I'm going to talk about a problem that I've noticed within the online music community. Now, I want to preface this by saying the online music community, people forming their own bands, many more people playing solo to pre-recorded tracks, either tracks that they pre-recorded themselves or tracks that they found online or purchased online, and then they're playing to those tracks. It's a net positive that people are making so much music online, because prior to the internet, the only time that you could really show off your talents was on a bandstand. The idea of sort of rehearsing in public or showing your skills in public as just, one man on a bass, one woman on a drum set, etc. That wasn't really a thing. And for the last sort of 10 plus years, because of YouTube and TikTok and other platforms, this very much is a thing. So, where does the problem come into it? Well, the problem is in the perfection, because there seems to be a distinct lack of human originality in these performances, so much so that it's almost like humans are striving to be robots. They're striving to be AI, where no one is going to be a better robot than a robot. No one is going to be better artificial intelligence than artificial intelligence itself. What's lacking is another form of AI. It's artistic intuition, which is far more interesting in the realm of music or other artistic endeavors than that other more well known acronym AI. And this is what I'm getting at. The other day, and I'm not going to name any names because I respect anyone who puts on a camera and a microphone and plays an instrument online, whether they're struggling, whether they're succeeding. If you're doing that, you're already ahead of the game. But I would sincerely say that these people would be that much further ahead of the game if they stopped trying to mimic the exact note for note performances of their favorite artists. And here's the little secret: most of the artists that people are mimicking and emulating couldn't play what they did note for note on a record 5, 10, 15, 30, 40 years ago. They couldn't replicate that even if they were practicing and touring and in the best of musical health, because real music just doesn't develop that way. And there's two reasons for it. When you're playing live in a band or any other ensemble, you're not really trying to recreate anything specific. You are reacting to the musicians around you. You're reacting to an audience. You're reacting to the acoustics of the venue that you're in. You're reacting to what's on your mind, what message you want to convey that day. You're reacting to your own physical state. Are you feeling pumped up? Have you taken certain substances to pump you up? Or are you, tired from, months on the road, and maybe even more tired because of different kinds of substances that you're taking? Not that I would recommend any of those. Maybe I should get sponsorship and sell some of the legal ones. That's as maybe. But every performance is different when it occurs live. And this is true with every genre of music, from chamber music to opera and symphony orchestras to jazz, perhaps especially jazz, which is a very improvisational form of music, but even other forms of music that aren't known as much as improvisational, like pop rock, for instance. All of it happens spontaneously. Even if you're playing to a dreaded click track, which I hate, that's part of the problem. Even then, within that rhythmic rigidity, there is still the phenomenon of human exploration, human expression, and yes, human failure, which leads to the furtherance of exploration. I mean, Miles Davis said that there really are no wrong notes, so long as the note you play after the wrong note makes it the right note. And that is absolutely true. Likewise, the great Romanian conductor who worked most of his life, most of his golden years in Munich, Sergu Celibidache, don't try to spell it, don't even try. Let Google do the spelling for you. But he had a very interesting idea about live music. He was a very spiritual person. He was into various forms of Oriental theology, Buddhism in particular. And he said that the live performance is something that is unique in both space and time, and that it should be thought of as a holistic experience where the audience members, the room, the period of time, the physical instruments, the chairs, the musicians, the score, all of it sort of becomes a singular metaphysical, quasi physical entity. And that in such a space and time, what is appropriate in this particular instance will never again be able to be contextualized or understood. And that's one of the reasons that he hated recording music, particularly his concerts. And interestingly, he has a lot of concerts both on video and on audio, and they had to trick him. They had to say, oh, these cameras were just set up for something else. It was from the guy who was in here yesterday, or that microphone is for security purposes. And so they had to trick him into actually recording live. I suppose the trick was sort of on them when it came time to paying him for the recordings that he sold. But there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. And that isn't to say that recordings aren't useful. They're very useful in many ways. But this is another thing that a lot of these online perfectionists should keep in mind. Of all of the live music that is being performed today, or that was being performed on October the 19th in 1975, pick any day of any year in a calendar, only 1% of any set of live performances occurring on any given day can really stand up to listener scrutiny outside of the context of a live performance. Now, what does that mean? That sounds kind of freaky. So let's break it down. Have you out there, this kind of sounds like the Twilight Zone, but imagine you're at a concert, you're having a good time, you're enjoying the music, you're saying to yourself, or maybe even saying to your friend next to you, that this is such a great concert. I wish that they could just keep rocking forever. It's just so great. And then the next morning, someone uploads some or all of it to YouTube that they've taken with their phone, and you think, I remember it being a lot better than that. Well, that's because you were drunk. No, actually, I was the designated driver that day, and I really think that it was better in the flesh when I heard it live than on the recording I'm hearing. It's not the fact that this phenomenon goes beyond the fact that sonically the live experience is generally very good, especially compared to an iPhone video. Even though iPhones are getting pretty good at recording sound recordings. Sorry for the tautology. It's about a different kind of psychological phenomenon. A lot of the live music experience is multi-sensorial. And so the enjoyment you're having isn't just from the sonic elements emanating from the stage and the PA system they're in. It's about the entire thing, the lights, the sounds, the smells, to quote Spinal Tap, of a hard-working rock band. But this, of course, applies to any genre. There are, however, those unique live performances, the 1%, maybe at most 5% in any given day or year, that are worth preserving and promulgating because they can stand the scrutiny. They can withstand the scrutiny of even the most critical listener outside of the context of the live event, the live performance in which they were initially conceived. This is very rare. It's true of classical, it's true of, and whether by classical, whether it's a symphony orchestra, chamber concert, opera, what have you. It's true of jazz, true of rock, true of hip hop, true of any genre. The great live performance that can withstand the nakedness of being recorded is the exception that proves the rule. And so when you look at great live recordings by any artist from any genre, and you say, I really enjoy listening to that live recording, I really enjoy watching this concert film or concert video, you're listening at maybe 1 to at most 5% of the cream of the crop, because the other live performances just don't stand up when you listen to them outside of the multi-sensory live context. And this isn't to say that live music is bad. Quite the contrary, live music is very good. If anything, it's saying that the overabundance of documenting live events isn't really all that necessary. I mean, it's good because you never know when you might want to revisit something, even if it's a musician wanting to hear what they might want to change or improve on next time. But the idea that everything that we put on camera or on a audio recording device is equally necessary for the world to hear simply isn't true. A lot of it actually does a disservice to the live experience, because if you listen to a recording of, a neighborhood band playing at a neighborhood venue and you think, that sounds kind of mediocre, you might not go. Whereas if you did go, you may well say to yourself, this is a really fun event. Aren't I glad that I came? It needn't be the kind of holistic musical experience that is so emotionally and technically powerful that it deserves to be sold as a live album or released as a live concert film or put onto YouTube as a professionally shot live concert video. So that's another thing to remember. Now, here's the other reason that I think music YouTubers in the music community shouldn't be so obsessed with trying to replicate the note for note performances that they hear on record. And that's because even when you're in the recording studio, forget live performances, even when you're in the recording studio, things are deceptive. Things are not played note for note. A single song might be recorded over a number of days, and in the cases of some artists, a number of weeks. Each instrument playing one by one, each section being re recorded over and over, each parts of a single solo, whether guitar, saxophone, or piano, being edited together, whether on tape or the much more easy editing available with digital audio workstations. And because the editors, both in the analog realm and the digital realm, know what they're doing, they can make a performance of one song, recorded over 3 months with multiple takes and multiple edits. They can make it sound like this wonderful, holistic thing. But if a musician had to try to recreate that which was created in 3 months with multiple edits, the musician probably couldn't do it without taking a lot of time to practice it. And professional musicians have better things to do, namely go out there on the road and just let it all hang out. Because what separates a professional musician from an aspiring amateur is that a professional musician doesn't need to over rehearse. Yes, all good musicians rehearse to some degree, but when you reach a certain level of professional greatness, you can just go onto a stage, go onto a bandstand, confident in the knowledge that you possess within you enough skill to make it work, no matter what it is. And clearly, these musicians on YouTube and in other places who are playing these utterly perfect, note perfect replicas, let's call them, of famous recordings, I think they're doing their own creative development a big disservice, because they are not allowing their unique voice to develop. They are not allowing themselves to stray from a template that was created through deception. It was created through multi-track recordings and editing in the studio. It was recorded by a live record, which even there you can edit those together. You can record over 5 different performances of one song and only put the one the artist likes the best there. Even though when you're talking about professional musicians, those other evenings, those other recordings are probably damn good too. And so, my advice to these musicians in this YouTube and online music community is don't chase perfection. Certainly not in a technical sense. Chase technical versatility. If you care about being great technically, if you care about having great musical skill, learn the ability to adapt. Learn technique so much that you don't have to think about it, but you can just apply it like a tool that is used in the service of creating a unique musical concept. Use it as a megaphone to express your unique musical voice, and do not be afraid to make mistakes. Through mistakes, we have artistic revelation. Through mistakes, we can learn how to improve our technical skill. And through mistakes, interesting sounds can be made and interesting musical events can occur that we actually end up liking more than the perfection that we were trying to chase. Again, it all goes back to what Miles Davis said. It's not a wrong note if the following note makes it make sense. And again, if you practice enough to have this kind of musical skill, every mistake can be, most mistakes can be rectified in real time because you know how to catch yourself, you know how to correct course. All of that is very important. Now I think that I, for one, don't at all blame the musicians who take this route of mimicry, who take this route of trying to play these note perfect interpretations of their favorite pieces of music. I blame a society that has sort of made music into something that you can measure with, the kinds of statistics that are best applied to competition. For instance, is this runner quicker than the other runner and by how many seconds? That's a competition. Music is not a competition. Music is artistic expression. And if you're trying to box music into statistical metrics, you're going to suck all of the creativity out of it. And so I think a lot of these people on YouTube and TikTok and elsewhere that have forced themselves into this chase, this endless sort of chase to perfection, I think that they're feeling a bit bullied by a wider culture that has sucked the artistic creativity, spontaneity, and even chaos out of music by attempting to make it a competition. And even in sports, I think that people have become, mainly because of online gambling, they've become, not that I'm opposed to that, sponsor me, they've become obsessed with mere statistics. In other words, just because someone might have more completions as a quarterback, does it make him a better quarterback? Does it make him a more interesting quarterback? Does it make him more athletic? Does it make him more creative? Does it speak to his intelligence about the intricacies and complexities of running an offense? No, it does not. And this can apply to every sport. Maybe someone on an NBA team doesn't have the most stats, but maybe he was a great leader. Maybe he was a great team player who, because of that, he helped his team win again and again. Or even maybe those qualities don't necessarily even affect the W and L column, but he creates, as a member of this team, resilience, which means that after a string of losses, a team is able to pull itself together and start winning even when others would have given up. These intangibles that cannot be measured by statistics, that cannot be achieved through mimicry, are the things that I think we're missing, not only from the music world, but even from the sports world, where rigid competition is an objective fact. There are winners and losers of every game, even though music and other arts do not work that way. So I think we ought to pull back a bit from the world of metrics and statistics and get back to, a gut feeling, a visceral feeling. Does this work or does it not work? How does it make you feel? I know that's a really idiotic phrase, but in this case, I do believe it applies. We need to look at the overall meaning. The underlying theme, as Neil Peart would say, and get away from this chasing of perfection. Because if you try all your life to be someone else, you'll only ever be a second rate version of them. If you try to be a first rate version of yourself, you may well become someone that others admire too. And that's my bit of advice to people playing music on YouTube. Other than that, keep on doing what you're doing. Music might have retreated from the mainstream of the culture, but in terms of the musical clique and the musical world online, it is a huge community of really interesting people doing really interesting things. As always, like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.